his character. That kind of nature worship goes throughout the 19th century. That's when you have the rise of the Romantics going back to discovering their own nature, free from the civilizing influence of the church, or of Christianity, forget about the church, but of Christianity, or of reason even. It was the pursuit of the appetites, the most basic human realities, which are wonderful when they are controlled by the reason and by a will that is informed, but that indeed lead us to a somewhat bestial existence, irresponsible, spontaneous, moment by moment, freed from the restraints of reason, or as they would call it, civilization. That's what you also have in the spread of sports clubs in the 19th century. The fascination with the human body, which is then exalted in the worship of of specific human bodies in the Nazi culture in the 30s, when you had to be blonde and blue-eyed, following right along with what the Greeks had already were concerned with, and that is the ideal form of the human being. There is an ideal human being in the Greek mind. There was an ideal human being in the Nazi mind. But there is no ideal human being in God's mind. There are only 7 billion different human beings in God's mind. There is no universal of ideal proportions. There's George, there's Anna. There are individuals as human beings. Mind you, some of us could do well to do something about their shape, but there's no ideal form, there's no ideal proportion. There is a human being with a human body. The Nazis also practiced this nature worship. They went back to Wotan, all the Germanic gods, as influential. They rejected Christianity and created a German Christian denomination, against which happily some pastors objected. They replaced the notion of truth with the truth of nationality. A nationalism replaced what I mentioned last time, the pursuit, the vain and I think foolish pursuit of a Holy Roman Empire of German nations as a replacement of Rome when it's collapsed in the 4th century, 5th century. It was replaced with Charlemagne in 800, crowned by the Pope to establish a 1,000-year empire of a Holy Roman Empire, which came to an end when Napoleon crowned himself in 1806. The Pope was merely watching at that time. He didn't get to put the crown on. That dream was finished, but the dream of unique elite identity as a nation was maintained and fragmented into the nationalisms of the 19th century, with the horrible outcome then of World War I, when we all fought each other in Europe because we identified as nations rather than as people with neighbors, the way Scripture saw it. And so this idea of replacing God and seeing the divine in nature, or in a race, or in a nation, or in a continent, is really fundamentally a return to Greek notions, a return to paganism, and away from Christianity. And it brings with it horrible consequences, because it denies the mind, it denies the individual, it denies the moral framework with which we all have to grapple at all times in all situations. It gives us the utopia of resolution. Now I know where I belong. When in fact, in God's universe, in a fallen world, I only know I belong to God, but I don't know yet how I will live the next moment. That's my choice. That's my responsibility. It's very critical. I must be very careful. If there's no easy way out of it without chopping your own head off or killing your own heart and mind. Unhappily, I think the 19th century precisely was so fascinated with all the good progress that took place in terms of individual responsibility. Yes, it was a good thing to go through the Civil War in England and finish the rule of Cromwell and other things and so forth. It was a good thing that there was an affirmation of individual responsibility through the 19th century. It was a good thing that there were scientific developments and progress. These are good things. However, they also contained in them the temptation precisely to see them as a manifestation of God, and thus to lose the critical distance which we need to have in a world in which you not only have life but also death, not only kindness but also cruelty, not only truth but also lies and deception. That's as far as I want to go tonight. Thank you. Are there any... We have some time for... Yes?